Please take your seats quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim and Chris. On today's Tour Catch-Up, sponsored by DownloadTennis.com.
Maria Sakkari wins her first 1,000 title.
Team World thrashes Team Europe en route to the Laver Cup.
And the Davis Cup Final 8 is set for Malaga.
Kim, Chris, today is the 26th of September and we are here to catch up on the week in tennis at Tennis Weekly HQ. The Asian swing is upon us. Guadalajara is over and Maria Sakkari is your champion, her first ever 1,000 title. We also had Team World destroy Team Europe in the Laver Cup, which we're going to be talking about. And we're also going to be looking forward to the Davis Cup knockout draw in Malaga, which is set. So, as always, lots to talk about. Our first tour catch-up after the US Open. Myself and Chris, we are ready and recharged from Manchester. And Kim, you are back, and we are here as a trio. We're all good to go.
I'm very relieved to be a trio again, not a duo, Joel. We spent a lot of time together last week.
Yeah, we have spent arguably too much time together.
Yeah, you were getting a bit cosy in Manchester, weren't you? So
those
I'm here to break
rooms,
up the party.
The two bedrooms were too close for comfort for my liking.
Normally, part of the minimum accommodation commitment, it has to be separate sides of the flat.
This is why I want the Travel Lodge. The Travel Lodge, you get two separate rooms in a hotel. It's very easy. I know you love your apartments.
Don't tell each other the room number.
Does Joel snore? Is that the big secret here?
I think Joel just takes 14 showers a day. Is that only
I do
issue?
love a shower.
So
I'm not gonna lie. I just love a shower in the morning,
exactly.
in the evening. I'd have one at lunchtime as well if I could.
Joel, you shouldn't admit that. It's unenvironmentally friendly.
There's a
and we need to be a sustainable podcast.
I'm probably the reason for it in Manchester, yes.
Oh, dearie me. Well, showers aside, we've got lots of tennis to catch up on. But also, there's been, I think, some fun things off the tennis court that I've been enjoying this past week. Top of my list is Annabel Croft making her Strictly Come Dancing debut on Saturday night with a cha-cha-cha. Don't know if many of our listeners who are based in the UK watch Strictly. I feel like there's quite a high correlation between tennis fans and Strictly fans, so I'm going to guess that a lot of people will have seen
Eurovision
her
fans,
dance. And Eurovision fans.
So how did you rate Annabel Croft's cha-cha-cha? What do you think of her chances?
What would you give?
For any of our listeners who are actually wondering who Annabel Croft is, she's a tennis commentator on Amazon Prime, seemingly everywhere. Wimbledon,
player.
Former top 20 player. Kim, what was your assessment?
Well, she was very clean and crisp, and I know this sounds a bit bad, but I thought she was better. She was better than I expected her to be. I thought she might be a bit wooden, like Judy Murray was when she was on the show. But Annabel was much more on it. Kim. I know.
I thought that Judy was very fluid in her movements.
Well. But I think, it's a nice partnership with Johannes, and she was very clean and crisp and, had great timing. So, and obviously she's still super fit and flexible. She keeps up with the fitness. So
she's very
I'm excited
competitive, isn't she? I think she's very competitive. I once saw her in Celebrity Cage Fighting. That was a TV show once.
Oh
wow.
Blimey.
I was going to ask Kim, did she get a 7?
She did. I think she's got 4 7s.
Did she get 4 7s?
Yeah,
I'm
sure she got 4 7s.
Okay.
So that's a very good, encouraging score. All I wish is we have, more tennis players doing Strictly. We could have a whole, instead of the Laver Cup, maybe next year we could just get them all to do some dancing.
What tennis player, very quickly, if there's one, who would you like to see on Strictly Come Dancing?
I do think Novak Djokovic would be very good, to be fair.
Yeah.
He's very, obviously we know he's very fit. I think he'll have really good frame and posture. So I would actually quite like to see it. And I think he'd be up for doing fun, themed dances as well. So I would totally tune in for him, actually.
Fair enough. Oh, that's a tricky one. I was thinking maybe the person that Joel thought was doing Strictly when he texted us to say on the group that it wasn't Annabel Croft. Who did you think it was, Joel? You thought it was Radwanska.
Oh,
but she did do Strictly in Poland, I think.
Yeah, she did the Polish version. Yeah.
And Sorana Kosteya's done it in Romania as well, I think.
I think Francis Tiafoe just needs to do the American version when he retires. I think he will say he's quite the entertainer. He'd be quite fun as well.
I agree. But talking of fitness, Garbina Muguruza has gone into a new fitness-related adventure as well.
I'm
Isn't
worried,
that right?
Kim. I'm worried, Kim. Is she looking for her second career? Because this has been my highlight, not of just the last week. I feel like, to be honest, the last couple of weeks, because all over her social media channels, she's been flaunting her Zumba classes, and it's got me nervous for her tennis career. I'm not going to lie. It looks like she's having a lot of fun off the court, which is great to see. But yeah, she's getting properly into it, isn't she?
How do I sign up to join her Zumba class? Is it
I think you
online?
can stream it. I think you can stream it. Yeah, I think that's possible. She was on a stage. I mean, it's not just like she's taking a Zumba class, is it? She's leading this big workouts, Joel. And I guess that's what's causing most concern, is that this feels like it isn't just this feels like a long-term contract, a long-term pickleball style contract.
Gonna lie. I am happy, but I am sort of worried, or slightly kind of like, is she having so much fun that actually she's like, I've got enough money in the bank. I might just sack off tennis completely, because I think we're not heard like she's not been as assertive, I think, as someone like Naomi Osaka when it comes to 2024 at the moment, in terms of like, I'm definitely coming back, this is my schedule. Yeah, her mind seemingly is elsewhere at the moment.
I definitely do a Zumba class with her, though. I mean, that might be the thing to get me back into fitness, because it's been a long time overdue.
Kim, I can see it now. We'll wait for the Muguruza fronted Zumba class Croydon edition. Oh, I can see it now.
Outside Box Park.
Yeah, Box Park in Croydon. And Chris, your highlight of the week, you've just put down on our notes that Novak Djokovic met a goat, and that was your highlight.
Yes.
Is that right?
That was my highlight. Yeah, indeed. I just was scrolling and thought, this is the content that I didn't know I needed. Normally I like to go for something a bit of a curveball, where it's a bit niche, but this is obviously one of the most obvious things. If you are the GOAT, arguably, this was a photo call waiting to happen. Why did he wait so long?
Yeah, this feels so obvious. Why has it not been done before?
The goat meeting a goat.
Yeah, and people were like, which one is the GOAT? I can't tell. And I'm like, honestly, it is hard to tell, but
hilarious.
I know people do love it. So I just thought it gave me some light relief. And I also think, the GOAT seemed lovely. And so if he does hang up his tennis racket, which I don't think he's going to be doing anytime soon, he could become a goat farmer, which I think might be quite a nice idea for him.
That just reminds me of when Roger Federer was given a cow for, I think, winning Wimbledon.
Yes.
So maybe they could.
No, I think it was one of his home
together.
tournaments, wasn't it? It was like I think it was in Switzerland, wasn't it?
Oh, I don't know now. I just have visions
maybe he's got
of him
a lot
and this
of cows.
cow.
Yeah, it was like
exactly.
just an odd prize.
Right. Let's move on to the tennis that we saw last week. The main event was in Guadalajara. It was a 1,000 level event for the WTA. And we had a champion that we haven't seen lift a trophy in a long time, Maria Sakkari. She has lost her last 6 finals, but she finally was able to pick up a title by beating Caroline Dolehide in the final in straight set 7-5, 6-3. It's her first title in 4 years. And I know we've spoken about her having a lot of struggles this year. And she seems to have, regained what she had before and come back with a bit of a bang to get the biggest title of her career. I mean, Chris, watching Sakkari win this title, what was your overall impression of how she played throughout the week, and what is it that she's now doing that she hasn't been doing this season so far?
Well, I think she did fantastically to win the Guadalajara 250 tournament. I think it was a really good performance there, but I mean, I think it's great to see she picked herself up after the disappointment, obviously, at the US Open, but it does help when none of the world's top 6 players bothered to go to the 1000 tournament. But again, having said that, she has played 250s, like genuine 250s, where we've thought this is a done deal and she hasn't come through. So there still is a massive step for her that she is able to get it done against players who she should get it done against, which isn't always a dead cert for Maria Sakkari. So going one better than the previous year, I think, is really positive. And some of the results, against Garcia and against Azarenka, she was, against Garcia, she was particularly kind of emphatic in those results. I mean, bageling Garcia, who's been playing pretty well, I think was a very good performance. So the highest sort of ranked player that she could have met in her side of the draw, she did take on, and she came through very easily. So it's a great result for her, and hopefully, and we say this a lot, but hopefully the curse is lifted and we can see her much happier on and off the court.
Yeah, it was straight sets all week for her, and she was the number 2 seed. But like you said, even though going into this tournament, we probably wouldn't have predicted her to have done particularly well just based on her form this year. So these are exactly the sort of tournaments she needs to be winning or getting to the final. Given her ranking, when we don't have the real top the world number 1, 2s and 3s there. Joel, what was your sort of impression of Sakkari this week? I know Chris has mentioned about, you can take the win with a slight pinch of salt. She's not, fully up to battling with the very best, but still a positive result.
Absolutely. And I would also say, actually, regardless of who is in the draw, I almost kind of felt the biggest opponent to Maria Sakkari was herself. We've seen her implode at times in relatively easier draws. And again, in this moment, you would have felt like this is a big opportunity to, win my first ever 1000 title. And I was impressed with how dominant it was throughout the week. I mean, straight sets, bagel against Garcia, and to consider where she was at in her frame of mind at the US Open, losing to Masarova. We all saw that press conference when she was in tears. We were wondering if she was going to take a break from tennis. I think I even said I think she should have a break from tennis. And to see all those kind of critics come at her in terms of her ranking and the lack of titles that she's had, her relationship and her coaching relationship, with Tom Hill has also come under fire, and whether she should be changing that up. And I think she'll look at this result and be like, this is me serving my critics. And I think there's some interesting parallels with Coco Gauff, for example, in terms of the fact that, she's had her critics this season, answered them with that US Open title victory. And I sort of feel that, yes, regardless of the draw and the caliber and the quality of the draw, that Sakkari has to an extent answered her critics with her first ever 1000 title.
But do you think you can make that comparison given kind of the fact that Coco Gauff went on to win a 500, a 1000 and a Grand Slam? This is Guadalajara without the world's top 6.
I agree. I agree that is a more impressive feat, and that was across a whole summer. And this is just one tournament and a non-mandatory 1000 event in Mexico at the end of the season for the women. But at the same time, I think just the trials and the tribulations that Sakkari has gone through, and the way she almost kind of has beaten herself up, I think mentally on the court. I think this week she was a lot happier. She spoke about in press conference, she was feeling a lot more positive, and that was her mindset. And it's almost that kind of, I think that's almost kind of freed her in terms of her tennis. And it's something like, I think almost you want to see a little bit on the men's side with Andrei Rublev, offer us a little bit of a smile every now and again on the tennis court, because again, I think that positive mindset really did wonders for Sakkari this week.
I think also, even, Coco Gauff winning the US Open, she made that speech afterwards where she addressed those critics. You can't help but be a bit inspired by that. And maybe Sakkari did kind of take that on board as well. I'm sure she would have, tuned in and heard that. But I mean, it's great for Sakkari. She did have a bit of a ranking difference in the final. Caroline Dollarhide ranked 111th in the world, not played
not
at this
anymore,
stage
Kim.
Before. Not anymore. No, she will have gone up, of course. And she had a great week, getting to her first 1000 final. She beat Sophia Kenin in the semi-finals as well. So, Kenin also having a really good week on tour. It's been a long time since she's been at this stage of a 1000 event. So those players really making the most of, the top 6 players not being there. But what do you make of Caroline Dollarhide? Do you think she's one to watch, making her way up the rankings?
Well, Joel, you can gloat here, because just before this tournament, Joel turned to me and said, has Dollarhide reached her peak? Yeah. And I said, yes, she has. Fast forward one week to the final of 1000.
Was it in Prague when we were in the arena with about 4 people at midnight watching her play doubles?
Well, we've always followed her career for whatever. I think it was that reason that she was playing with Coco Vandeweghe in a very tricky USA tie against Spain, and I think we've seen her have more success on the doubles court than the singles court. So I think for her, I mean, this is life changing. When it comes to your ranking, when it comes to what tournaments you can enter, when it comes to access to funds that you might get if now that you're ranked inside the top 100. and quite way into the top 100 now with
ranked
these
in
points.
the top 50. I think she's going to be
In the top 50.
into like 442, and
it's fantastic.
yeah. And I think the upside, I think, for someone like Dollarhide with this event is the fact that it's come at the end of the season. Those ranking points are going to be there for all the Grand Slams, next season. So, for her, it's going to be great knowing that she's probably going to be able to get into these main draws, with finalist points from Guadalajara, and the prize money that opens up, for her at minimum, with those first round, maybe even second, third round appearance fees. It's going to do her a world of good. And, American tennis, I think on the women's side, we've had a few players come through, this season, Peyton Stearns, Emma Navarro, and Dollarhide again. Maybe
Kenin is back as well.
Kenin as well. They all seem to really have
Taylor
come
Townsend's
on.
only on the way up.
And it's impressive. I think from Dollarhide, maybe she sought inspiration from that and being like, whoa. These American girls, they're all doing the business, and I don't want to miss my shot here. And she certainly took it in the top half of that draw. Yes, she probably it's again similar to the kind of the Sakkari comments around the quality of the draw, but the fact you're going unseeded all the way through, that is impressive in itself.
Yeah, and great week for her, great week for Sakkari. Sakkari obviously likes Guadalajara as well, because she did come, I was going to say she came second last year. She was a runner-up last year.
Silver medalist.
To JPEG. It's like a Formula 1 race, she came second. So she's gone one better this time around. And talking of, tennis in Mexico, we also had some news recently in the last couple of weeks that the WTA Finals are going to be in Cancun this year at the end of October.
Spring break.
Not far away. It's been quite a late decision in the day. There was a lot of rumours about it being in Saudi Arabia, but obviously that's quite a critical step if it had have been. But they've decided to go with Cancun in Mexico. So what do you both make of that? Just, quick word before we move on.
Well, it was a big surprise to us. I think a lot of people had thought that maybe Prague was going to edge it because of the backlash that was received about.
I think if they had their way, it would have been Saudi Arabia.
I think that was a real risk. And I think, to be honest, that this year they tested the water when Billie Jean King came out in support of potentially playing there. I think they were going to see what the backlash would be like. And I think they thought this year is not the year to do it, based on what people had kind of responded to that and how that had not been well received. But I do think it was, again, how are we in this situation where it almost makes the Billie Jean King Cup impossible for the top players to play? It's going to be a similar situation where they're going to now have to fly across multiple time zones to get to a tournament almost as soon as the end of season finals have started. And some of these players are playing in doubles and singles at that event, like Coco Gauff and Jessie Pegula. So if nothing was learned... Well, nothing was learnt last year, and I think it's a case where if in doubt, the WTA does tend to make not the best decision. I'm pleased it's not in Saudi Arabia, but in terms of what's best for people, spectators for the Billie Jean King Cup, for the players, and kind of for the players' health, I really do think it doesn't make any sense going from China to Mexico, then back. To play the Billie Jean King Cup in Seville.
I mean, the only thing I would add is that I think what we've seen in Guadalajara, that the crowds and the atmosphere have been great. I mean, the capacity we got, I feel, for Dollarhide Sakkari in the final was like impressive alone, and I think I'm hoping that Cancun will provide a really great atmosphere.
More than Fort Worth.
Exactly. But from a practical point of view, it just feels like why didn't they just do it in Europe? I don't know what the reasoning behind not being in Prague was, but there felt like a real clear and obvious solution to have it more joined up with the Billie Jean King Cup finals and make both events look strong. But because we've had this situation, it might be that both events look weak because, Cancun's going to be a bit of an unknown, I think. We've not really heard that as a place we've seen tennis before. Prague is a lot more of a sure thing. And it's, I think, a little bit of a gamble in terms of if it doesn't pay off, it's going to make both events, look bad. The WTA finals and the Billie Jean King Cup finals.
Well, I mean, I'm waiting for Iga to come back and say, you know, another statement saying she wishes that she could, but she couldn't. She was the world number one last year, you know, when that came out. And
how many of those statements do you think we're going to
get?
Do you think it's writing's on the wall already?
It was a hot topic for the Davis Cup as well in terms of that format. And I think the players are starting to get a bit more power through some of these social media moments. But if they didn't listen last year, I'm not sure why they would listen this year, because they haven't. And why they'd listen next year. So, I mean, if you are a player, I think representing your country does become quite challenging at the moment if you're on the WTA Tour.
Yeah, well, we'll see how Cancun goes. It is just for 2023, so we may actually be going to Saudi Arabia next year still. That's on the cards.
It feels like we're just putting off the inevitable, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's look at what else happened on tour, well, off tour, I should say, last week, because we had the Laver Cup, which is, you know, although it's a tournament, it is very much still an exhibition event. It's not an ATP event, although there was a bit of, I think,
I was going to say,
debate
not
between
not in the mind of Felix Auger-Aliassime, I feel.
Yeah, FAA and Monfils got into a bit of an argument during their match, but basically it was a very one-sided affair in the 2023 edition out in Vancouver. Europe losing, only winning one rubber, Team World winning 13 points to 2. Absolutely dominant, and you know, it was just they only needed to win the doubles match on the last day to secure the trophy. Joel, I know we've discussed previously about the Laver Cup and it has its shortcomings, but what did you make of this year's edition? You know, very, very one-sided.
What a mess, I think. You know, this was not competition-wise. I don't think the matches were particularly great. The fact that it was over so soon on day 3, it didn't really have a gripping climax. And yeah, it's a massive turnaround, isn't it? I mean, we you know, when this competition started, we thought, you know, Team Europe are always the dominant force. So it's been a real turnaround from that perspective. But I think for me, that Monfils and Felix Auger-Aliassime hoo-ha between them sort of summed it up in that I still don't feel like, regardless of how many editions we've had, I'm still not sure the players know what the Laver Cup is. I don't know if the fans know what the Laver Cup is. I don't know what the Laver Cup is. Is it an exhibition? Are we meant to take it seriously? And that's the thing that I think needs to be clarity, because Monfils is playing it like, you know, he's the entertainer and he's an exhibition. And Auger-Aliassame's like getting angry because, you know, he's frustrated with his season so far and he's treating it very, very seriously. And as a result of not knowing what it is, I'm just not sure what to make of it.
But why is my big question. Like, why does it exist, Kim?
Yeah, it has an identity crisis, I think. And for FAA, I mean, winning the Laver Cup, it's not really going to go on your list of career accomplishments.
He looked very happy. This year it would, that's for sure. He didn't let go of that trophy.
At
the champagne was flowing at the end, but it doesn't feel... It just doesn't feel quite right. And I think I get that we are still in the very early stages of this, you know, this competition, and, you know, things like the Ryder Cup, you know, in golf, which has been compared to, that's been around for, you know, forever, and you almost need to build up a heritage. But it certainly feels to me like this could be the end of like a Generation 1 type Laver Cup. I would like to see some changes kind of brought in. You know, there's been talk around the captaincy and the fact that we've had McEnroe and Borg, and you know, whether we should be changing it up, and, you know, people talking about Federer. And Andy Roddick being, you know, next captains. Yes. But certainly I think that there needs to be something now that needs to change in order to not let this slip, because this was just a bit meh, wasn't it?
You need big players. It's the first time they've played it without any top 5 players playing, which makes a big difference. I mean, last year, some of those iconic photos of, like, you know, the big 4, you know, going out for dinner, the fact they were all playing on the same court and practice, it was really an iconic event, and probably I thought would breathe some life into it. But obviously, without all of those players committing to be there, and obviously with Federer's retirement, there was extra focus last year. But it does just feel very elitist, and a lot of the stuff they go through when they're getting fitted for their suits and all of this sort of stuff. And it's a bit peculiar because this isn't the highest quality of tennis that you'll see this year. This isn't the world's top 5 playing against each other and playing for Team Europe versus Team World. It's actually, you know, a selection of Team Europe that aren't the highest ranked playing against Americans and North Americans, plus Francisco Cerundolo. So it doesn't have that same feeling of really being truly Team World. it seems very Western in its perspective, and I really would like there to be a new iteration that was more exhibition focused, which did have some of the older players who may have retired playing exhibitions, as well as
so you would like it to be
players.
more exhibition focused and a bit more of a laugh as opposed to like all seriousness, we must win at all costs type tone.
I just think it's a bit funny. It's just these people getting fitted in suits to play this really important thing, but there's nothing important on the line. I don't think anyone understands really what's going on and why this is a big deal, because the only people it seems to be a big deal for is the people that are paid there to stand in a suit all week and maybe sit on the bench like Milos Raonic for a week. So for me personally, I find it very confusing, and I think for fans who pay a lot of money to see it, I think this year has not been the experience they were hoping for, especially on that final day when they paid a lot of money. And again, they are aware you might not get to see 4 matches on the last day if it's not close. But I do just think it doesn't necessarily work for the fans either, based on what I've seen on social media. So I sound here a bit negative. I could get on board with this. I think it just needs to really be improved, and it needs to find a space where it can.
Do you think
really
it should be every
to
year?
Elevate tennis.
Do you think it should be every year?
I don't think it should be every year. I think that's a great point. I think I would love to see Federer playing it in an exhibition with someone else, almost like a Hopman Cup type event for players past and present. Because I think that would really add some excitement to it. That even if you aren't necessarily seeing some of the top players of the now, you are seeing some of the top players that you'd love to still see on a tennis court.
Yeah, that would be fun. I think getting Roger and Rafa back.
Basically, we want to see Roger and Rafa again.
Basically, that's I think the origin.
Well, I
when
honestly
it was
think
first
the
set
highlight
up, that's what it was. Wasn't
I
it?
honestly think the highlight of this was of the whole event was seeing Roger Federer back on it. We saw
Yes.
on social media, just saw him back
Showing
on the
us
court
how to
hitting some
slice. I
backhands.
loved
And-
it.
Yeah, exactly. That was the highlight, which I think says a lot about an event that wants to take itself really, really seriously. But are we really going to be talking about these matches and analysing them? The answer is no.
Casper
Monfils
Ruud might
won't be.
want you to analyse
yes.
his only win for Team Europe over Tommy Paul.
Very true.
Casper Ruud,
Well done,
what a hero.
Flying the flag.
Yeah. Well, if you weren't tuned into the Laver Cup, you might have been tuned into a trio of 250 tournaments out in China. We had Guangzhou, which was won by Wang Jiyu. She captured her first WTA title, beating one of your favourites, Joel, Magdalenette, 6-love, 6-2 in the final.
Thrashing.
So, yeah, very exciting. So debut titleist for her. And, yeah, hasn't been often really that you get players winning events in their home country as well. So she's just the 5th person to do that this year. But, yeah, Lynette very well and truly beaten in the final there. We had Chengdu as well for the ATP, which Sasha Zverev was the victor in defeating Roman Safulin in 3 sets to clinch that one. Safulin was in his first ever tour level final. That was quite close though. Zverev was literally 2 points away from losing that one, wasn't he?
I mean, Zverev has been playing some great tennis post French Open. I think I was reading, it's not a tall order to imagine him potentially ending the season in the top 5. And considering how his season started, do you think that's testament to how well Zverev has been playing over the last few months, or is it testament to the fact that all the players around him are not really performing at the levels they should be?
I think he's playing a good schedule for ranking. I think some of the top players who haven't necessarily got the results haven't dropped down to some of these lower level tournaments. I think playing Hamburg is a really good place to get 500 points because that's not necessarily always the strongest field. And then I think, when you look at the top players in the top 3 who are probably going to stay there for a little while now based on where they picked up their points this year, I think there's probably a bit of a space there, kind of from 4 to 6, where I think you can see a few players, if they up their game, they'd be able to elevate themselves there. So I think he's picking up the points, and that's kind of what you've got to do, especially when you want to kind of get seeded better, to get better draws, and get a draw that doesn't give you Carlos Alcaraz in the quarterfinals of the US Open. Like obviously he faced when he was there with a bit of an injury, I believe. But the thing I was going to say, Joel, about this tournament is we saw Max Purcell take on Jordan Thompson. Jordan Thompson was sat on the bench the entire week at the Davis Cup. even though he had a pretty good ranking, and he clearly was just ready to get going because he actually...
he had a point to prove to Hewitt, didn't he?
He did. He sprung an upset and got through that one in straight sets. So I did think that was kind of interesting because you've seen these players and who should play where and what should happen. And it does put a different perspective on things, Joel.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we've also got Murray versus Alex de Minaur in Beijing in the first round. So yeah, it's quite interesting to see although it doesn't happen in the Davis Cup format, it could happen the next week on the ATP Tour and it could be completely different. So yeah, fascinating to see. And I don't know if that gives genuine food for thought for Leighton Hewitt in terms of, who he brings. I get that Max Purcell is sort of the linchpin, the fact that he can play doubles and singles. But yeah, Jordan Thompson, no slouch on the singles court. And maybe he was a little bit underutilised just warming the bench in Manchester.
We also had Zhu Hai, which was won by Karen Hanchanov. I knew there was a silent K somewhere. He's back, his first title in almost 5 years. He beat Nishioka in straight sets.
5 years. 5 years.
I know.
That doesn't sound right.
Is it real? Well, apparently so. Yeah, I think it's just that's madness, really. He has had difficulties this year, though. He got a stress fracture during Roland Garros in the quarterfinal and hasn't really played since until the US Open. So
it's not won since Paris. That would be. Is that right?
Paris 2018. That sounds about right. Yeah.
I mean, we talked about Maria Sakkari's title drought. That was Rabat 2019, I believe, in May. So, I mean, he's a pretty top player to have not picked up a title in that much time. So I guess it does make the point that if you don't play the right tournaments, you're not going to pick up the titles.
Yeah, and I think from Kachanov's point of view, I think it just shows that it's frustrating he gets these injury setbacks, because if he had a clean schedule for this year, the tennis I think he has been playing, I think he would have been more of a dead cert to be in that top 8 for the the year-end season finals. He might still get there, but certainly the stop-start nature of his schedule, it just has made it a little bit more challenging. So it's great to see him kind of come back and just show he's basically just picking up where he left off.
Yes, and let's take a very quick break now after all of those tournaments we've run through. We'll be back in the second half to discuss the Davis Cup Final 8 draw in Malaga, the trial of performance buys in Tokyo, and also Ultimate Tennis Showdown player nicknames. So do not go anywhere. Welcome back to the Tennis Weekly podcast, sponsored by downloadtennis.com. Now we're going to move on to a little bit of fun. We've got a new game that we're trialing.
We're breaking the system. It's not Path of the Courts and it's not Mysterious Player.
Kim,
we do have...
I've had a trial of this. It's not easy.
Yes.
Is this designed to stop you from winning, Chris, though, maybe?
I think it's designed that Joel might be able to win one.
Yes. It's actually a bit of both, but listeners, it's very exciting. We're going to be testing a new game. This is a game me and Chris... we came up with it in the pub. I have no lie. As all great things do, we came up with it in the pub in Manchester during the Davis Cup group stages last week. But yes, new game. I haven't actually got a name for it yet. So as we go, listeners, if you've got any ideas for a name for this game, I'm just going to call it Joel's Game at the moment.
I thought we actually agreed on one, because I'm not sure I want to play Joel's Game. I thought it was collector set higher or lower.
Okay, right. Let's call it collector set higher or lower for now. But I'm open to other names. I don't know if collector set confuses things, but
we'll do a vote. I'm not sure Joel's Game is going to get that many votes.
Not
Fine.
sure that's going to be a top seller.
Give us your suggestions.
Right. Okay. So the idea here is, in this game, it is career high ranking, higher or lower, and you two are working as a team. So you're not facing off against each other.
Finally.
You're working as a team against me. I'm going to give you...
we do that anyway, sorry.
I am going to give you a player, and you're going to think of their career high ranking, and you're going to tell me if it's higher or lower or same as the player before. And the idea is to get 6 correct answers in a row, hence the collector set format.
So just to
Right.
clarify, it's career high ranking, not current ranking.
No,
Okay.
career high ranking. And to start with, I'm going to give you a player and their number. So listeners, this is your time to get pen and paper at the ready for a new game in Tennis Weekly lore. Kim and Chris, are you ready?
Ready to play Joel's game?
Ooh, okay,
Joel's
right.
game.
We're gonna take things easy. So
Is it
the
Roger
player
Federer
we're
number
gonna
one?
start with and their ranking is David Ferrer, and he had a career high ranking of 3. So that is our
That's higher than I
starting
thought.
point.
I said
Ooh,
6
okay.
or something like that. Okay. There's
So-
not much higher you can go
Yes,
with that.
I know.
So-
I'm as I say, I'm taking it easy to begin with. So this should be a
Okay.
very obvious choice here. So the player I'm going to give you, higher or lower career high ranking, Ivo Karlovic.
Oh,
Higher, lower, or same?
He's surely not been as high as 3 in the world, has he, Chris?
Not a chance.
So it's got to be lower.
I think he's edged the top 20, but never
I think he
higher than
might
that,
have been
Kim.
10 maybe once for like a week maybe.
What are you going with?
Well,
I'm
sorry, we'll say
I-
lower. Yeah, lower.
Definitely lower.
Correct. Yes.
Oh, thank God
Ivo
he wasn't
Karlovic
world number one.
lower.
We forgot about it.
Career high ranking 14.
Oh, okay.
Well, I guess we were in the middle of us.
So now we're
Okay.
at 14.
So now we're at 14 exactly.
Okay.
So you ready for your next player?
Yes,
Yes.
indeed.
One correct answer. We're going to go a bit more rogue here now. Misaki Doi.
Oh, Chris, I mean, you're a WTA expert. I don't think she's been higher than 14, is she?
No way.
No.
None.
So we're
So
going
we're going to
lower.
go a comfortable lower.
Yeah.
If we had to put a number to it, I'm not sure she's been...
39?
I'd say 33 maybe.
Correct. Yes. Lower is the right answer. Career high ranking of 30.
Oh, okay.
Well
Fair.
done.
So that is your
Kim,
new...
we're doing well.
That's your new number. You're a third of the way there. That's 2 correct answers. Right.
It's
we're gonna
definitely
get-
easier than Manchester, Joel. I'm quite liking this.
Right. Next player. Philip Kohlschreiber.
Oh, he's
Ooh,
been higher than 30.
He's definitely been in the... Yeah, he's definitely in the 20s. Maybe like a 29 or
Oh,
higher,
no, I
maybe.
think he's been in the 10s. As in, like, I think he's been 13, 12 in the world, I would say.
Well, we're both saying higher, and that's
yeah,
what matters.
higher. Yeah.
Correct. Yes. Philip Kohlschreiber higher. Career high ranking 16.
Oh, okay.
So
See,
no-
I'm really not going to do well at this.
I assume he's
29.
retired now. He was quite a,
So you're
solid
halfway.
player.
You're halfway there. Right. Things are getting a bit spicier now.
Mm.
Next player. Joachim Johansson.
Oh.
Higher or lower than 16? Or same?
I get
Right.
him mixed up with Thomas Johansson, who I think would have been
Wow.
higher. But
I
this
mean,
is
he was
Joachim.
pretty handy, wasn't he? I think he was probably top 10.
Do you think? I don't
Maybe
really know much
definitely
about
top
him.
15. Oh, because where are we at? What number are we at? Sorry.
16. we're at.
16.
Oh, that's quite tricky.
Could be
I'm gonna
same.
say, I think he's been higher.
I'm gonna go with your gut. You're the captain on this one.
I don't
because
think Joel's going to throw in a same this early on in the game.
No,
I'm trying to psychoanalyze Joel's game. I think he wants a bit more support here. I'm going to say higher. Are we saying higher? Agreed?
I'll go with you,
Okay.
Chris. I trust you.
Oh no.
Otherwise, we're over and out, aren't we? If we get this wrong.
Yeah, I think so.
You said
No
higher.
sets.
And it's a correct answer.
Oh,
yes.
well done.
He has
See,
actually
this is
been.
actually harder.
He's been top 10. Career high ranking
wow.
of 9. So there you go. So
Well,
that's
I mean-
4.
I just don't want to let you down, Kim. That was actually more stressful than playing by yourself.
Okay, right. So 9 is your new starting point, and the player next on the list is Marion Bartley.
Oh, she has been
Ooh,
higher
than
without
9.
question.
Surely she's been 7.
I think
in the
she's been
world.
7 or above, maybe number
6.
5.
Yeah. When
But
she
we're
won
saying
Wimbledon,
higher.
she must have gone up.
I mean, Rybakina got to like number 9 with the US Open. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and she didn't play any other events at that point. So we're definitely saying higher.
Higher, yeah.
5, let's say.
Correct. It is higher. Yes. Career high ranking of 7.
Oh, skill.
Oh, Kim, you did say that.
Okay, so that's 5. Oh my God.
I guess
Are
she
we
did
on?
retire. She retired immediately after Wimbledon, didn't she?
Basically, yeah.
Are we on for a collector set full house in the first outing of collector set higher or lower? It all comes down to this. Are you ready? So Marion Bartley, career high 7.
Yes.
Final player,
It's going to be the same, isn't it? I can tell.
Gail Monfils.
Oh,
That's a tricky one, isn't it?
I think he might have been 7. I think it could be the same.
If someone said to me,
Higher, lower, or same?
Or is it the 8? Or is it 8 in the world? Or 6?
if I'm on, I think it.
5?
I think he's been 6 or 5. I think he's definitely been higher than top 8.
Or he might have only got to 9 or 10.
But it was regularly seeded for quarterfinals at one point, I believe.
At slams.
Yeah, like he had that semi,
Okay.
a few semis, that semi at the French. Oh, it's going to be tough. Do you think Joel's done a same on us, or do you think lower? I think higher. So should we say same?
Should we?
Oh, is this a trick question?
I'm
Kim?
gonna
What do you really
have to
think?
push you
Okay,
for an
I'll
answer.
be here all night. Yeah, should we say same?
Same?
I think
Chris.
Kim thinks slightly lower. I think slightly higher. So we're going to try and go for the fact that Joel's going to put in a same. Yes.
Yeah, I would. If I was guessing from scratch, I might have said 7. So same.
I'd have said 5. No, 6. I'd have said 6.
I can tell you that same is an incorrect answer.
no.
You should have listened to someone, and you should have listened to Chris. It was higher. Career
Sorry.
high ranking of 6.
Oh, 1 higher. That's so close.
That was an incorrect answer. You were very, very close to collect set. That was 5.
That's good. That's good for the nature
That is
of
a
the
very
game. We
good
can't
start.
win it straight away.
Very, very good start. But yes.
Listeners, tell us if you beat us, please.
Did you
because
enjoy that
someone must have
game?
got
I
that.
don't know. I think it's great, but you might not. You might disagree. Let us know.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I think it's very educational. I now know more about Masaki Doi's career high ranking.
Well,
so,
I think it's her final tournament this week. I think I was reading somewhere.
well, there you go.
You've clearly read more than we have.
Thanks, Joe. I've thoroughly enjoyed your game. And yeah, listeners, maybe let us know of any catchier titles or
And yeah, play along at home with
ideas.
someone. Don't have to do it by yourself.
Yeah. Let's have a look to see what's in our mailbag this week. We had an email from Jackie. Thanks very much for getting in contact. Jackie has asked, hello, Tennis Weekly. Following the recent Ultimate Tennis Showdown event in Frankfurt, I would love to know what player nicknames would you give to each other? So, yeah, we had like various players in the lineup and they sort of were given, particular
Did you see some of these nicknames?
I did. Casper Ruud, the Iceman, for example.
Oh, that's, I mean,
Grigor
from Norway,
Dimitrov,
but-
G Unit. Oh, that is so cringe.
Lamont, I think that's kind of, obvious for
Wait,
Monfils.
Is Rublev just promoting his brand there? Andre Rublev. Rublev.
That's.
Sounds like Lego or
Hang on.
Duplo.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
There's
not gonna lie.
much consistency.
I mean, I like Andrew Rublev's idea, and if I was entering myself personally, I would go Joel Tennis Weekly Girling, definitely.
Wow, it's actually a three-man operation here.
I was going to say Joel Chicken Shop Girling because you're
Oh,
always getting your fried chicken
I like
late at night.
the Weatherspooner. You know,
Oh, Joel Woo Woo Girling.
Ooh, Joel
Woo
the
Woo
Spoons.
Girling, Woo Woo
Yeah.
Girling, or should it be
That could be
Kim
quite
Hugo
good.
Hugo Mackenzie?
Yeah.
I quite liked the National Truster, Kim, the National Truster.
Yeah.
you
Do you
know,
love a bit of national trusting? Or how about Strictly Kim?
Strictly Kim that's
Yeah.
quite good because you do keep us in order as well.
Copenhagen Chris? I don't know.
I had Chris. I had like for some reason I had like Chris Mystic Meg Kneebone because he gets predictions right before anyone else. It's on the radar of anyone
Yeah,
else.
I mean,
and then I just jump
am-
on the bandwagon later.
AKA Coco
You could
Goff.
be Joel the bandwagon.
Oh.
that could work. That could work. I was I was trying to think like what I could be when it came to this. I mean, Mystic Meg I might take, but maybe Chris the Shame, because I've got the slam spoons of shame at the moment.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Could see that.
Love it. Oh, well,
It's tricky, isn't it?
when we have the Croydon Invitational tournament, we'll roll
The
out these
UTS
nicknames.
Croydon.
UTS Croydon. Ooh,
Ultimate
yes.
Croydon Tennis Showdown. Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
that's what we all want
we
to
might not
see.
get some of this list all attending. I'm not sure we'll see Andrei Rublev playing. We might get a Liam Brody.
We might do. I mean, they can promote their various things if they want to at our invitational. But yeah, thank you, Jackie, for getting in contact. That was nice for a bit of fun. And it's like in snooker, they introduce the players with their nicknames, don't they? Like Rocket Ronnie O'Sullivan. So I don't know, maybe it's going to catch on in tennis.
We're going to
Honestly,
need war
Joel,
point music next, aren't we?
Yeah.
If you ever announce instead of Joel, Kim and Mystic Meg, I will be furious.
We'll sneak it in somewhere without you
Yeah.
realising. That's why Joel's in charge of editing.
Yeah, not us.
Let's have a look at other bits and bobs from the world of tennis. We do have the Davis Cup Final 8 draw that's been announced for November. So this is from the 21st of November till the 26th. We've got the 4 ties lined up. Canada versus Finland, Czechia versus Australia, Italy versus Netherlands, and Serbia versus Great Britain to start us off that week. What do you feel about the draw? I mean, GB Serbia, that's going to be possibly, Novak Djokovic getting involved there, which I think is quite exciting for Britain to be up against. But yeah, what do you make of
I
this?
wouldn't say exciting, Kim. I'm a little bit downhearted by that draw, and the fact that it feels like. I know the scheduling was probably for us in Manchester. I feel like arguably maybe this is against us because it's the last quarterfinal. The tour finals are the week before, so it almost feels like they're giving Djokovic as much time maybe off as possible before he has to pick up his racket again for team tennis. So I'm more pessimistic than optimistic, I think, seeing Serbia in the draw on a Thursday.
I'd rather have maybe Djokovic in the semi-final, just because then maybe he'd have to have done double duty the day before. Well, it wouldn't be the day before. You'd still have a rest day because of the nature of how the semis are scheduled. But when you look at who the number 2 could be, I mean, you've got De Gea, who's playing very well. He's dangerous. You've got Leovic as well. I think it's Kekmanovic as well. So that you've got some players that could do some damage there. And I think, one of the things we talked about with Davis Cup and Great Britain is that we have a great team, but we don't have that standout player that's going to be a dead cert for a win. And when you play against a team that really does have one of them in the form of Novak Djokovic, I think it's going to be tough, but there will be a lot of support there, I'm sure. A lot of people are excited about this. A lot of people are excited to take a trip to Malaga in the sun of November. So hopefully they can extend their trip a little bit longer than just the Thursday.
I mean, we might be able to scrape it on the doubles. I think the doubles will be key, if depending on, if we can get the singles wins over the non-Djokovic player. But yeah, it would have been perhaps better for us to have got Finland, for example, in the draw. But never underestimate anyone.
We'll never
I guess.
underestimate Finland.
I mean,
No.
that top half feels a little bit lightweight, I think, compared to the bottom half. I mean, the fact that Italy, Netherlands, Serbia, and GB... Yeah, I mean, Yannick Sinner, Matteo Berrettini, Musetti, Italy, that also is going to be real heavyweight for whoever comes through. I mean, Netherlands also no slouches. I mean, they defeated, USA. So, yeah, very tough. I would have loved to have
nice
Canada
to
or
have
Finland.
Australia's draw, wouldn't it? But we
Yeah.
had to win that last
had
match
to-
to go through.
I know,
We couldn't
so
slide into
annoying.
second. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We might potentially be out in Malaga to witness some of that. So we'll keep you guys posted. Let's look at what's happening this week. We've got 2 500 events on the hard courts in Tokyo and Beijing, as well as a couple of 250s, one in China for the women and the Astana Open in Kazakhstan for the men as well. I guess much of the talk this week has been dominated somewhat by the performance buys in Tokyo that have been given out. So they're not giving out buys based on ranking. They're giving buys based on the previous week's performance on tour. And there's one particular player that's not particularly happy about that, which is Elena Rybakina, because she hasn't got a first round bye as she expected. So she's having to play, an additional match, which she's not very happy about.
This story has gone, I think, way out of proportion from earlier in the week, because Rybakina's pulled out now, citing her body and fitness. But yeah, at the start of the week, when there was talk that she wasn't going to get a bye into the second round automatically, she went out on Instagram and...
Very unlike her, wasn't it?
I know, she's very silent, isn't she? And normally just kind of keeps stum, but... It shows, I think, how much it irked her and provoked her into response, because she posted on her Instagram story, performance bye, thank you for changing the rules last moment, great decision as always at WTA. And then she had a clown emoji and a circus emoji. I mean, this was pure fire straight at the WTA bigwigs.
Honestly, if there was a love button, I would smash the love button there, because don't you just think... Even in a situation which is just run a tournament like a tournament, the WTA has done something wild, because the nature of it was essentially she was the only one who was losing her bye. And that doesn't really make any sense. And I think, again, I'm sure that we can have a bigger debate here around whether there are too many byes in tennis and whether there should be more opportunities for players to play in draws, and whether that's positive or negative. But the nature of this, I mean, it just seems like it was just so last minute and so badly thought out that, especially if you're Rybakina, who's, really had a tough run of it, not getting Wimbledon points and all that side of things, she must feel like she can't catch a break, because this is just completely bizarre and unwanted, really, I'd say.
And for our listeners who are kind of like, what are performance buys? Because I'm not going to lie,
Nobody knows.
I was in that situation. I didn't even know. I thought they were kind of a new thing. They have been around, but they're just rarely exercised, I think, by tournament organisers. But they are essentially there to allow players who have performed well in the previous week to directly enter into the second round of the following tournament, so they have more time to adjust the new time zone and conditions. As you can imagine, with someone like Maria Sakkari doing so well in Mexico, going all the way over to the other side of the world, that was kind of where that's where it kind of all came in. Well-intentioned, exactly. But I guess there has to be a full person, and in this case, it was meant to be Rybakina, who's obviously now pulled out. But I mean, what do you think on the concept of this? Because to me, I feel like it is unfair in the sense that this is your ranking. You have worked hard to get your ranking to this place. And, this is one of the perks. This is one of the benefits of it when it comes to these draws, rightly or wrongly. I don't think, though, you should negatively be affected by, having not played a non-mandatory event the week before.
I think also the issue here is that the WTA didn't communicate this with the players, and it's also not consistent from week to week. So some tournaments are choosing to do it and some aren't. So you're not going to necessarily know when you enter if they're not communicating what type of buys they're going to be giving, and you need to know so you can plan your schedule. And like you said, it's not her fault she didn't play the week before, So it's there needs to be a clear cut, well communicated outline
or better scheduling. I think I did a tweet about this, because it feels like performance buys could easily be avoided if scheduling made more sense, if we're not across different continents all the time.
Over the cracks, aren't they? Like, it's like we got this schedule. How can we
still
make
want
it
the top
fairer?
players to play.
We won't fix the actual problem of the schedule. We'll just introduce a new thing to help remedy it.
Well, do players get a performance buy who are playing for their country, who are coming over from Cancun after the WTA Finals? Maybe they should have better scheduling with that. I think it asks a lot of questions. And I completely agree with Kim. It's got to be consistent.
Well, we'll see if any more tournaments decide to spring that on players.
Just on that, actually, guys, I will take a performance buy next week for recording. So that one's on you. I'm just I will just take a buy.
You won't be able to play Joel's game.
Yeah,
you
but
can
also
play it
that means
between
you had
yourselves.
But that means you had some success the week before, which I don't seem to have noticed.
Oh, dearie me. Well, let's have a very quick look at the draw for Beijing, which is a 500 event. Carlos Alcaraz is the top seed. We've also got quite a lot of the Brits. We've got Andy Murray playing up against
It's a stacked draw, isn't it?
Yeah. Cam Norris
Decent.
got Rublev. Dan Evans has got Sinner. So no easy matches
Holger
for British
Rune's on the
players.
court, Chris.
I'm very excited. He's got a new headband and he seems very positive
Ooh,
now.
The power of the headband.
Yeah, we've seen it before. It's worked for people. So,
Okay.
Maybe this is when his season comes back around. But he does say that he's kind of healed from his injury, which I'm not sure that's how backs work. So maybe sitting out the Laver Cup made sense, but I still think it could be a bit soon for him to do something mega, potentially. But still, I'll be watching.
And we've got the Ningbo Open in China for the women. On Shabor is the top seed there. Kvitova also the second seed. So we'll be rounding that all up next week, as well as the Astana Open for the men, where Talon Griegsborg is the top seed and Sebastian Byers the second seed. So
It's not got quite the same
happening.
ring to it without... Did Djokovic play this? He had a
He
great...
did. This
Yes,
was
he did.
Wasn't this your
He
favourite
played
result of the
Medvedev.
entire year?
Was the
Medvedev.
final? Yes. Did
Medvedev
was two
retired.
sets.
Djokovic withdraw? Who forfeited?
Medvedev withdrew.
Yes, that's it. Yes.
Yeah, and it was your favourite match of last year.
Yes, that was some quality tennis. Shame the draw this time hasn't obviously quite lived up.
Yeah, Djokovic going Tel Aviv next. That's still on the schedule.
Oh my God, we could get a very old school matchup. Just having a look, round 2, you could see Stan Wawrinka versus Dominic Thiem.
Brilliant.
Ooh.
I'm there for that if it happens.
Yeah.
And we've
Well,
got
not
all
actually
French
going to
clash as well.
Kazakhstan, but-
Manarino versus Rinderknech. And the winner could play Moutet.
Oh, French number one.
Goodness.
Moutet in his underarm serves potentially.
We could have a French version of Joel's game with French number one.
Well, I'm sure that's going to happen because he definitely put me through my paces on the French players when we were in Manchester.
That is very true. That is very true. But yeah, I don't know. Did you see him? Yeah, Moutet, I don't know if he was joking, but he was in an interview earlier in the week basically saying, I've been trying out my underarm serve. I just might make it my full-time first serve, which... I mean, yes, okay. Could that be a thing?
I suppose it's not illegal.
I would say slightly unlikely. I think there might have been a dose of sarcasm there because I've just had a quick look and he actually won 80% of first serve points in his last match. So maybe that was because he had just lost to Kekmanovic, having not necessarily served as well as he would have liked.
Or maybe his opponent heard that interview and was like, he just prepared for underarm serves all the time and wasn't prepared at all.
Yes. I'm not sure how much you can practice an underarm serve. I guess it's in the disguise because you can't do much with it, I guess. But we wish him well with that, don't we, from Tennis Weekly HQ?
Yeah, we do. We'll see how he gets on. We'll see how everyone gets on. But we're going to leave it there for this, our latest episode of the Tennis Weekly podcast. Remember to subscribe to us to stay up to date on all the action to come from the ATP and WTA tours with the Asian swing in full swing.
We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcasting platforms out there. And if you like what you're hearing, then make sure to leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
You can also follow us on social media or email the show. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube and X, formerly known as Twitter. Our handle is @TennisWeeklyPod. You can also purchase exclusive Tennis Weekly merchandise at etsy.com/shop/tennisweeklypodcast, or you can email us on tennisweeklypod@gmail.com, and our website is also tennisweekly.co.uk if you'd like to check us out there too.
And we will be back next week at Tennis Weekly HQ for our next tour catch-up. So I hope you can join us for that. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from Kim.
Goodbye.
It's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. We'll see you again soon.